Welcome to Epilogue Podcast, the show where we discuss some stuff that happened on a different show ages ago which nobody really cares about anymore.
Hello, I'm Portponky.
And I'm LeBloc.
Today we're discussing Deep Space Nine, Season 5, Episode 21, Soldiers of the Empire. Martok, Worf, and Dax take command of a downtrodden Klingon ship for a rescue mission.
Those crewmates are such a bummer.
What, you mean, what, because they were all saying, yeah, we're gonna lose and die?
Yes.
Yeah, they didn't seem to have any kind of disciplinary action for people being outrageously sort of morale killing.
Oh, you want to go around the nebula. Okay.
I'm surprised they didn't just stab that guy in the throat. So, what did you think of this one?
I thought it was all right. I always enjoy the Klingons. This is not an exception. It wasn't extraordinary, but I still have fun watching Klingons pound their chests and talk about honor.
I certainly enjoyed it, but then again, I like Martok, so I guess I was destined to enjoy this episode.
Even when Martok is a coward?
He's not a coward, he's just rumbled. Well, okay, he's a bit of a coward for a bit.
He wanted to test it out.
To test out cowardice.
Yes.
And the result, it wasn't very good.
So now he knows not to be a coward. Problem solved.
Only one person had to get stabbed. If only Jake could learn from him.
So you think Jake needs to stab somebody?
It would probably help him be more, I don't know, well, if he did stab someone, either it would steal his nerves a bit, or he'd probably just be horribly traumatized by it. I imagine it probably would be the latter.
Either way, that's a fantastic writing prompt.
What, go out and stab someone and then write about it?
Yeah.
It's a bit kind of Hemingway-esque, I suppose.
Speaking of drunks, when that one guy is drunk and going off about Jem'Hadar being the future and how they're so much better, it made me think of the stereotypical drunk uncle going off on a political rant.
Oh, when you have a family barbecue and everyone's having a good time, and then suddenly they're off ranting about, I don't know, usually something very right-wing or something. And everyone's like, oh, okay, great.
Dax should have put a stop to that much sooner. She was yelling at him, though.
But that guy was basically being treasonous, if that's a word. He was saying, yay for the enemies, they're going to beat us, and that's the way it's going to go. I mean, okay, just an opinion, but in the Klingon world, I can't see that going down very well.
I guess that's why I struggled with this episode a little bit. I couldn't see how this crew became so insubordinate, how everyone allowed them to reach this point. Why didn't someone get stabbed earlier?
Oh, do you think they took the sort of ragtag group of underdogs a bit too far?
Yes, I do. These guys are moping around the entire time, talking about death and dishonor, walking the corridors. I'm glad there's diversity among Klingons. Dax even says that the Klingons are as diverse a people as any, and that's good. Sure, there will be strong ones and then some will be weak. But if you're weak in a Klingon society, the strong ones are going to notice and are going to yell at you and make you shape up.
Or at least they wouldn't put them on a spaceship.
That's a weird way to punish someone. You are weak. Let's band you together and put you on a ship. Maybe they were hoping they would run into battle and die, and they thought that was honorable for these weaklings.
But these are the Klingon military. So, okay, Klingons are diverse, but still, the military should be the cream of the crop in a military sense. They should all be tough, aggressive, and dedicated, just as most Earth militaries are. But it should be more so with Klingons, I would imagine.
And if you're not tough and aggressive, you would have been kicked out or something would have happened to you.
Well, apparently they just brooded for a long time till they were all smoldering with emotion, and then they started punching each other in the head. I do like how diverse the Klingons were in this one. That is really nice, especially as we just came off a Ferengi episode where it's just main character Ferengi. There's maybe one or two other random Ferengi, but they're essentially copy-pastes.
Basically, yeah.
It's nice to see the old guy with the grumpy attitude and the young guy who's losing it and all this sort of stuff. Not just in their attitudes, visually they were slightly distinct as well.
The idea of a crew with a shaken confidence is a good one, and that's what we get here, but I guess it's hard for me to swallow the idea that these guys have had a long string of failures.
You'd think they'd just get fired.
Or put on sanitation duty or something.
Seems odd. I guess they were hoping that eventually their spaceship would get blown up and they'd all die. So it's a waste of a spaceship, though. They're not that easy to build, even in Star Trek worlds where everything is free. Ships seem to be quite a limited resource. I actually thought this episode was going to go in a completely different direction from what it did.
Where did you think it would go?
Well, okay, so I didn't really remember the details of the episode, obviously, but I thought there was going to be a spy on board leaking information.
Was the spy supposed to explain Martok's behavior?
No, because I think that was justified based on Martok's history and the events of the episode. I just got the feeling there was a spy leaking information, and that's why they had a string of defeats but were never destroyed.
Oh.
So keeping themselves on the front lines, but making sure that they never really achieve anything, and at the same time leaking info. I thought there might be a changeling infiltrator or something. I just got that kind of impression. Obviously, the episode went in a different direction, but it's odd that never crossed any of their minds.
That would at least give us a reason for why they can't seem to win any battles, other than low morale and poor leadership, etc.
I don't think morale would make a huge difference when you're in a spaceship. I mean, the spaceship's weapons still work, even if the guy pressing the button is a bit sad.
The ship is a bit sad too.
Obviously, a strong crew with a good attitude is important, but even if they're all grumpy and stuff, I don't think that would automatically make them lose. It's much more dependent on the proportional capabilities of the ships.
Now I can't understand how they were losing, now that you've pointed that out.
Maybe they were really just down in the dumps.
I can't be bothered to press this button.
Shields up. Okay. Shields up.
Shields up, I guess.
Lock phasers on that vessel. Yep, well, I'm actually on a break right now. something happened in this episode, which has happened many times before, but I can't let it slide, which is Cisco letting two of his key top-ranking officers go off on a sort of murderous rampage.
At this point, does that surprise you at all?
No, not in the slightest.
Who is reading Cisco's reports and thinking, yeah, this seems sound?
I can understand Worf doing detached service. That was reasonable. But Dax just said, oh, I'm just sort of taking a holiday and going to work for the Klingon military for a week.
Because I'm not vital to the station and I don't really do anything, so...
Well, that was highlighted more than anything, because Worf was going to go away, and Bashir and Kira and Dax and O'Brien were panicking about having to compensate for his duties, and then Dax just takes a massive holiday, but there's no fuss or anything. What does she do?
If this episode is any indication, nothing. She is an awesome Klingon, though. She missed her calling.
Oh, she was totally kicking it in this episode. Outside of Deep Space Nine, here she was actually seemed kind of useful. I mean, I don't know what she was doing on the bridge, but she was on the ball, bringing the wine, laying down some massive sick burns on that guy at dinner.
So good.
That's the kind of conversational sparring someone with 300 years experience should be dishing out. The guy got burned so bad, surprised he didn't have to go to sickbay. She also was calling the situation, which Worf was kind of oblivious to, which is good. It's good that Dax can read through a situation much quicker than other characters.
She should pick up on that stuff immediately, or at least faster than other characters.
Yeah, and she did. So that's good.
Now I want the founders to envelop Dax in the link and change her into a Klingon.
I'm not sure if that's how that works.
It's not how it works at all, but I want it to happen.
Okay, which doesn't need to be a Klingon.
Yeah, she does.
She's fine as a Trill. I mean, it's not the best alien to be. They're kind of wacky, but she's fine.
I want her to wholly embrace Klingon culture and reject whatever it is she's doing on Deep Space Nine.
But that's the problem. She's not doing anything on Deep Space Nine. Her job is vague. She has no motivation to be there. She's just floating around. Even Martok has more reason to be there than Dax, and he's only been there for this episode, most of which he wasn't there for.
It's weird that in an episode that highlights how useless she is on Deep Space Nine, she proves to be tremendously useful on this mission. That has nothing to do with the Federation or her job title.
She usually is useful on missions, which is why they always have her get knocked out first. Because otherwise she'd be too useful and the mission would be over so too quickly.
One thing I'd like to point out that happens in this episode and many other episodes is that it takes time to reach places. Even though they have this advanced technology and can cover ridiculous distances, the universe still feels vast when they take time to go places and they say, oh, that'll add a day to our trip and things like that. It's nice that they do that and they don't instantly appear places. Then the universe would feel really cramped and small and it wouldn't feel as special.
Traveling about is, well, that's the key to exploring and adventuring, so yes. But one thing I wish they would do is give you some impression of how things are arranged, sort of geographically.
What do you mean?
Okay, so Bejor is near Cardassia, and Cardassia also has a border with the Federation. And they just sort of pick a time and say, oh yeah, it takes 2 days to get from A to B. But it would be nice if there was kind of a map or something.
Okay, yeah, that would be nice.
I mean, I'm not sure how they'd do it, because it's space. So it should be a bit 3D. Although the galaxy is very flat, so they could probably get away with just a 2D sort of map. And they do bits and pieces here and there. There's the stellar cartography room in Next Generation, which is pretty cool, but they never outright state how things are arranged. It's always vague and just sort of like they tell you enough to explain the episode. For example, is Deep Space Nine orbiting the Bajoran star?
I have no idea.
I think it is. Worf gets a new house.
Finally, he can shed his shame, maybe.
Can forget about his dad. And now Martok is his dad?
Is that how that works?
I have no idea. They put a lot of
Okay.
emphasis on all this. Oh, you're of this house and the High Council and this and that. I don't really know what a lot of it is supposed to mean.
Blah, 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 something about honor, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Well, so he's now in the House of Martok, which, I don't know, maybe they get a dental plan with that or something.
He has better benefits in the House of Martok.
Yeah, paid vacations. He'll have to transfer his pension from the House of Moog to the House of Martok.
His Parmok can be on his insurance plan now.
Gets a slightly more fashionable symbol.
Another thing I really enjoyed in this episode was when Worf was speaking with Cisco, he says a word that doesn't translate. And I like when that happens, that they should have concepts and words that don't have direct translations. And it's good that it was something that had to do with battle and camaraderie. That's something Klingons would have more experience with and obsess over more. So that was some nice world building right there.
It makes very little sense, though. How did he say that? Was he speaking English? Or was he speaking Klingon or what?
He was speaking Klingon, and then we hear it skips over that word, the translator.
But he gave the translation. He said there's no word for it. So he knew the translation, or I don't know, it makes very little sense when the universal translators are involved.
He saw the confusion on Cisco's face.
But he hadn't stated that yet. What if he just said that sentence? Would the universal translator just not work?
Oh, I thought he said the word and then explained it.
He did, but how did he know that it wouldn't translate? Unless he is familiar with Klingon and English and is manually translating it, which seems a completely baffling skill in a world where that's all done automatically.
He had this conversation before with another human, and it took them a while to realize what was happening because he kept talking about this term, and the other person's face twisted in confusion, and they eventually arrived at the conclusion that that term was not translating. And saying the term again reminded him of that interaction.
That's very believable. how he'd go about telling everyone about this very personal moment with Martok. Do you have a fully translated quote for us?
The human fascination with what might have been is tiresome. Not a strictly human behavior, and we see Martok do it plenty here. But that's the point, I'm sure.
Well, we do find out he was trying to fob Bashir off and give him a cover story, so yeah, as soon as you said it, I was thinking, when has Martok postulated on what may happen? And I'm sure he does it all the time, and yeah, okay, so he does it in this episode, I suppose. He's saying, oh, it's a trap. But does he actually postulate about what might have been?
Oh, right. He talks about what might be, not what might have been.
It's subtly different.
Yeah.
I'm sure if we watched it carefully, we'd find him, at least, if not other Klingons and certainly other non-human characters, talking about what might have been.
It's a natural thing to do when looking at past choices and outcomes.
That was a vital thing to do. If you can't imagine how other choices would have gone, you have no way of record keeping your decision making.
That was the only way it could have happened, and I will hear no discussion of it.
Yeah, you will never be able to say, if I'd done this and that, this would be different. Next time I'll remember that. You just say, right, I did it. That's the way forward. And if the same scenario comes up again, you'll make the same mistake.
Not necessarily. You could remember, well, last time I did this and this happened. Let me experiment and try something else.
Analysis of one's own past actions isn't strictly human. Or if it is, then a lot of the other aliens are handling things quite well.
If you can reach success without ever doing that, then that's impressive.
I did like Bashir's response, don't bleed on the carpet. I wonder if they've taken courses on socializing with Klingons.
Yeah, it is a good line.
It's a different bedside manner than he would use on a human, I feel.
Yes. I can't imagine him saying that to Kira. Oh, I didn't mean to pick a female. That's not that kind of joke.
Oh, you mean like a menstruation joke?
Yes, that's not what I was going for.
Yeah, no. Well, say another name and I'll edit it in.
But Kira's my favorite.
Well, now we're talking about menstruation. I really could edit this out. No one would mind. We don't even know if Bajorans menstruate.
Okay, that's fair enough. Kind of an odd way for me to reveal who my favorite character is up to this point.
I already knew your favorite character was Kira.
Why is that?
Because you've said it a bunch of times already.
Oh, okay.
Hey, we should move on to the next episode.
Yep. Let's do that and not be afraid.
Let's watch the next episode and not discuss how it could have been, which is what this podcast generally is anyway. Oh, I guess we just gave ourselves away as humans.
Now everyone knows we're human.
Okay, that's it.
Kapla!
Kapla!